Welcome to today's explainer. I want you to just take a second and imagine the deep, resonant, deliberate sound of a Benedictine bell ringing at first light. For centuries, that precise sound has organized human attention. It's signaled the start of a very intentional cycle. Today, we're opening up the Rule of Saint Benedict, but we're looking at it through a very specific lens. We're unpacking the Benedictine blueprint for daily contemplative structure. We're going to explore how this ancient framework isn't just some historical artifact, but a highly relevant system for organizing our modern minds. Okay, let's dive into this. The whole thing forces us to ask a really practical question. How do contemplative practices actually distribute daily? Not in theory, but across the literal hours of our day. It is so easy to think of contemplation or inner work as something completely abstract, right? Something totally disconnected from the relentless ticking of the clock. But they saw it differently. They looked closely at the exact, tangible hours we actually live through, looking for a structure that mapped onto reality. And honestly, this brings us right to you. The source material is super clear about who it's for. It says if you have begun the foundation practices, you are the kind of person this is for. Meaning, if you're already out there trying to meditate, or journal, or just build a little bit better focus, you are exactly who this is for. If you're a seeker trying to build a strong, unshakable foundation in the middle of a chaotic modern life, this explainer is meant directly for you. Because let's face it, you've probably felt that massive friction between your daily obligations and your desire for real focus. Well, this structural insight was built to resolve exactly that. So we're looking at a timeline here: morning around 6 a.m., midday hitting at 12 p.m., and evening settling in around 8 p.m. This isn't just a schedule, it's a chronological map tracking the biological progression of human attention. It traces our journey from those fresh, untainted early hours straight through to the necessary reflection of the evening. It's a completely natural arc, and it happens whether we plan for it or not. We start with those early hours hitting what's known as the morning peak. There is this crisp, undeniable clarity we all get right when we wake up. The day hasn't cluttered our minds yet with unread emails or breaking news or sudden demands from colleagues. Everything's just quiet. So the absolute most vital question we face at dawn is, how do we actually use this initial, potent surge of fresh energy before it inevitably slips away? Well, it turns out the crucial point is that you never leave this high energy to chance. The blueprint dictates that during this morning peak, your focus has to be on rigorous examination and deliberate energy allocation. Before the world starts demanding pieces of your attention, you examine your intentions. You actively allocate your energy in those early hours, purposefully setting the trajectory for your whole day. You're basically deciding who you're going to be before anyone else can decide for you. But then, from that sharp morning clarity, we crash right into the messy reality of the middle hours. This is the crucible. This is where the friction of contemporary life hits us the hardest. Think about it. How often do you wake up feeling completely grounded, only to realize you've entirely lost your morning zen by like 2 p.m.? You're in the thick of work, interacting with people, getting bombarded with micro-decisions. The real challenge here is carrying that morning foundation forward through the unpredictable afternoon without completely losing your grip. To survive those middle hours, we need a specific two-step stabilization process. Step 1, maintaining conscious choice in the moment all throughout the day. You have to stay awake to the decisions you're making. But step 2 is the real anchor, an ownership review right at midday. Exactly when you're most likely to lose focus and just start drifting, you pause. You take ownership of the choices you've made since the morning peak. It's a rapid but brutally honest review to reset your awareness before the afternoon just runs away from you. Now, what's really interesting about this is how profoundly the energy shifts as we move into the evening hours. The frantic, reactive pace of midday finally slows down. We transition away from constantly making choices and step into a phase of visible accumulation. We're meant to just sit with the quiet weight of everything that has happened since that first morning bell rang. It's a completely different cognitive space. There's a specific phrase here I want you to really think about: truth-telling in the evening when the day's accumulated material is visible. Evening is the natural, optimal time for absolute honesty with yourself. And why is that? Because the events of the day are no longer abstract plans or those hypothetical, perfect scenarios you dreamed up at 6 a.m. They've actually accumulated into concrete, reviewable material. You can see what you actually did today, and you can tell yourself the absolute truth about it. As we look at this entire daily cycle, we really need to completely reframe how we think about structure. Because the philosophy underlying all of this is that it's absolutely not an arbitrary fit. And what is truly fascinating here is that it's not just the Benedictines who figured this out. If you look closely at convergent traditions, the Stoics, Sufi mystics, early Christian contemplatives, they all land on this exact same daily rhythm. They didn't view it as some random set of punishing monastic rules, and it's definitely not some modern life hack to squeeze more productivity out of you. It's deeply rooted in our shared human experience.
Let's draw a really sharp contrast here. In our modern contemporary lives, we almost always view our schedules as an arbitrary, imposed routine, right? Like a forced grid laid over our lives by our bosses or technology or just societal expectations. We feel trapped by it. But this ancient blueprint is the exact opposite. It is a sustaining, natural fit. It's designed to support you from the inside out. It provides a framework that holds you up rather than a cage that confines you.
So why is it so perfectly sustaining? Well, because it maps flawlessly onto our natural human rhythms. It perfectly matches the qualitative variation of our attention across the day. It captures that high morning focus, it accommodates our biological need for a midday reset, and it utilizes that reflective evening drop-off. At the same time, it perfectly matches how our daily events naturally accumulate into reviewable material. This system works seamlessly with your biology and your psychology. It meets you exactly where you are. Ultimately, what we're looking at goes way beyond a historical monastic schedule. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a challenge. Tonight, when the frantic pace stops and your own day's accumulated material becomes visible, ask yourself this. Now that you understand this inherent, natural structure, how are you going to consciously integrate it into your own contemporary life tomorrow morning? This is our human blueprint.